Bonjour à tous. Donc j'ai le plaisir d'accueillir aujourd'hui Domenico Otranto. Alors Domenico Otranto, il est professeur de parasitologie et de mycologie vétérinaire à l'université de Bari. Bari sur la carte, c'est vers le bas de la botte de l'Italie, en dessous de Rome bien sûr et de Naples. Donc il va vous parler, comme il va vous expliquer en anglais, et c'est un spécialiste des helminths et en particulier des nématodes. Ça c'est une première spécialité qu'il a, et la deuxième spécialité qu'il a, c'est les maladies vectorielles, en particulier les maladies transmises par les tiques. Autre point fort de Domenico, c'est que malgré son jeune âge par rapport au mien, il est l'auteur de plus de 700 publications indexées. Voilà. Donc, je lui cède la parole. Domenico, donc je te propose de traiter ton sujet en 45-50 minutes et après on pourra te poser des questions. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Thank you. Buongiorno. Buongiorno. Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much, Bernard, for giving me the opportunity to come to Marseille for the first time. It's a wonderful place, but I was really impressed by this structure and by this place and all the facilities you have. That's really, really amazing. And I would like also to thank Seva, Marie Verlot, for supporting, partially supporting my presence here. And today, Bernard asked me to deliver a talk about two parasites in particular, which are Telatzia callibera highworm and Onchocerca lupi. They are like babies for me, but talking about vector-borne helminths of zoonotic concern, we have to talk also of other parasites that we studied quite a lot. I will provide you with my personal overview on these parasites, my personal research, the research of my team, and I'm really, really sorry if I will be superficial in some way. We have the opportunities to discuss about specific points, and for sure I will provide you, we can also work on the literature that has been produced on these topics. First of all, I come from southern Italy, from Bari. This is Torre Ammare, it's a small village. This is from my house in the small port of harbor of Torre Ammare. Bari is here. And we are very, very open-minded as people, even if in Italy now there is a little bit of populism, a mix of populism and racism. We are really, really open as tradition, because we are in the eastern part, and Bari is of Apulia, and Bari is the main town of Apulia, and we are famous for food, for sure. But also, we were strategically important in controlling all the routes, the trade routes during the civilization. And then we have been a hub for different cultures from Eastern Greek with Byzantines. And our saint has a black skin, which is really important, Saint Nicholas for us, even for atheists. Is really important in Bari, but also we had influence from northern populations with Swabian and Normans, and also from Spain and from France. And at the University of Bari, which is after Naples, the main university in southern Italy, we have 23 departments. The Department of Veterinary Medicine is in Valenzano. Here we have the unit of parasitology. We usually work quite a lot in the field and the lab, and I will talk with you about our studies, because the field is really important to know better what the parasites, which are the parasites we are dealing with. Usually we work everywhere. In Italy, we worked in Greece, in Brazil, here with Felipe Dantas Torres, a previous student of mine, PhD student of mine. We worked also with some other colleagues on these parasites we are talking about in Xanthi, on the border with Turkey. Then here I was trying to work on the vector of Onchocerca lupi, never succeed. In China, on Telatzia callipeda and the Hypoderma sinense, which is an hypoderma of yaks. And here with Oleg, she's Filipova, with ticks for the definition. We worked on Ripicephalus sanguineus, mostly with Felipe, and for the definition of the species and of the lineages of Ripicephalus sanguineus. And also in Iran, here is with Bruno Chomel. I had this slide yesterday night. And also women were very interested in this sampling at that time. So, ticks, sandflies, we know that are very important vectors of crime vector-borne diseases. And we focus our attention today on vector-borne helminths. And I just try to discuss about 4 examples of different helminths. And for these helminth-borne diseases, we could say that there are some vectored helminths of zoonotic concern which are maybe considered less common or of minor importance or neglected or even emerging. For sure, canine delofilariasis may be considered or is considered as an expanding disease. We could say that it is an ancient disease with contemporary scenarios, expanding but not an emerging for Dirophilaria repens disease. We know very well that we have 27 species described within the genus of Dirophilaria. Just consider that some species have never been described. For example, in Brazil, we know that there are species of zoonotic concern which have reservoirs, which have wild animals as reservoirs, have never been described morphologically, because from a taxonomical point of view, we must stick on the rules of the description of males, females, and other stages before naming a new parasite. And then we have Dirophilaria mitis and Dirophilaria repens in Europe, which is Dirophilaria mitis is much more important for dogs, as you know. Repens is less important for dogs, but is most important because mostly of the cases of zoonotic dirophilariosis in Europe are caused by Dirophilaria repens, but not Dirophilaria mitis. There are 3 reports of Dirophilaria mitis in Europe caused by in humans. The majority of the cases, human cases, which have been reported in Europe came from Italy, and in particular from Sicily, where we found that, that was really interesting, that there was a strict relationship between the occurrence, the prevalence of an infection in dog population in this small area of Trapani, this small province of Trapani, and the human cases that were recorded in the same in this province as well. We do know from this review that that's quite comprehensive, that we have many cases expanding trend to the human cases in eastern countries, and also, for example, in Italy, we have many cases of Dirophilaria mitis and Dirophilaria repens in dogs, and most of these, the reasons for that, there are different hypotheses. One of these is the role of Aedes albopictus after the introductions in the late 18th as vector, as a potential vector, as a proper vector for both species of Dirophilaria. So we have an overlapping also in human cases and dogs, and cases in dogs, canine cases in these areas where before have never been described, or there were just some reports. But I will not focus on these parasites. You may find in the literature, you may find many information about the Dirophilaria mitis and Dirophilaria ripens, but on this oriental high worm, Thalassia callipeda. Thalassia callipeda has been for a long time considered as, and has been named as oriental high worm, because it was reported for the first time in China, then in Thailand, and many other countries in Southeastern Asia. And it was reported in dogs, in cats, and also in humans, mainly in children, and also in elder people. The problem started with the Thalassia callipeda in Europe when it was reported in 1989 by Rossi and Bertaglia, two colleagues from Piedmont, here in northern Italy. It was just one case of Thalassia callipeda in Europe. Therefore, after 20 years, we found, we were working on other Thalassia species, Thalassia bullosa, rhodesis, scriabini, lacrimalis, which are Thalassia which infects cattle and horses. Therefore, a practitioner called us and said, we found, thank you. It means that June said that I passed the first 10 minutes. Okay, grazie, June. And yes, these practitioners called us and said, I found Thalassia, I found these worms in the hides of dogs. Not possible. Not possible, because it's oriental high worm, it's impossible from China, it's been reported once. But we went there and we found quite a lot of Thalassia in dogs, cats, and foxes in this very remote area of southern Italy, in Basilicata, with a mean prevalence of up to 42% and 60% in some villages in this place. So our first question was, is that a coincidence or a parasitic disease for the whole continent? The occurrence and the presence of this high prevalence. So this is a place where Thalassia callipeda is present and where we have been working for more than 20 years, on different topics. For example, also ticks. We work on the Ixodes ricinus and on seasonality of the Ixodes ricinus with Philippedanthus torres, and on sandflies. And most importantly, this is all for all young people, we run our parasitology summer course, the PARSCO, which is very nice. I enjoy it. It's the 7th edition. It's sponsored by Parasites and Vectors and also by the European Veterinary Parasitology College. We have a lot of science for sure, but also we do the identification, or that's a practical course. We collect and identify sandflies, ticks, we dissect ticks, and for sure we have also good food and fun. He's Martin Pfeffer, I don't know if someone knows, and we have a lot of fun there. The problem when we started working on that parasite was that we didn't know which is the vector of Thalassia callipeda, this oriental high worm. And we started with an hypothesis. We thought that the vector could have been Musca domestica, because Musca domestica, as well as Musca larvipara, Tunalis, Vitripennis, are vectors of the face flies, of other Thalassia, of cats, and of horses. And so the first approach was to prepare or to feed these Musca domestica on the hides of an infected dog. in order to breed these infected flies and then to dissect them and to look for the stage larvae. The second approach, the second group of our Musca domestica flies were fed with first stage larvae that were recovered from the females of Telatia callipeda. By slitting the uterus, you have the larvae, the developed larvae, and so we fed these Musca domestica with the first stage larvae of Telatia callipeda. We worked a lot on this hypothesis. We worked more than 2 years in the field. That was not really happy to put all the laboratory in this remote area. I cannot tell you where we slept in that occasion because we had a bedroom and on the roofs and on the walls. Once we found many larvae of Ripicephalus sanguineus just crawling on the walls. That was something really terrible. But we dissected them, and we also performed some regular tests for looking inside these flies. And unfortunately, after 2 years, we demonstrated that it's not the vector of Telatia callipeda. So it was a long way. The vector of Telatia callipeda is something of completely unusual for medical and veterinary entomology, which is a Fortica variegata, which is a drosophilid with zoophilic behavior. Is something in between a parasite and a not parasite. A parasite guy is something that has to decide from an evolutionary standpoint which is the root of his life. Has they to feed on lacrimal secretion of animals or just they are fruit flies, family of Drosophilidae, subfamily Steganinae. The Steganinae subfamily includes other flies which are primitive flies and feed on zoophilic, on animal matters, on animal tissues. But these Fortica flies, we demonstrated this is really the vector of Telatia callipeda. We started working on that by going just or by collecting flies around the infected animals. We collected these flies in the morning, in the afternoon, at night, when dogs moved in their paths in these mountains. And then we went again to the lab. We bred these flies that are very difficult to be reared under laboratory conditions. We started also studying the flies by themselves because they are quite strange. They have some typical characteristics. The pale yellow ring around the eye, the interruption across a vein on the wing, the tibia with the three spots, and so on. And we did the same procedure that we have done, that you saw for the other, for Musca, and at the end we found that this was the vector, and she was the first student on which we collected this first the Fortica fly. Her name is Cinzia Cantacessi. She is now professor of veterinary parasitology at the University of Cambridge. She is very smart, but she started with Fortica variegata. So after some years and studying also the development of blastomerized and unblastomerized and larvae in the uterus of the females collected from the definitive host is a part that I didn't describe here because of matter of time. We were able to identify and to complete the biological life cycle of this parasite. And by using an ecological niche modeling, we found that many spots in Europe would have been potentially suitable for the development of Fortica flies and then for Telaxia callipeda infection. It happened in 2004-2005. I will not talk about the model and the power of this model, but I can tell you that after a few years, that was just a prediction, we know that we found new cases of Telaxia callipeda. So many cases of Telaxia callipeda. The first was in France with Philippe Dauchy in Dordogne. He was really impressed by the strawberry fields like beetles. And he put in relationship the occurrence of the fruit flies with these strawberry fields, but it was not the case in my opinion. And that was in 2010, so that is in 2018, the situation of the occurrence, the presence of this parasite. And also we have new cases also in UK. And you see, for these were just imported cases, but you know, the media are so important in UK. They are very they pay a lot of attention also to these parasites, and they build a very nice story with nothing, with 3 cases imported. More importantly, we published an article in American Journal of Tropical Medicine and Gene in which we demonstrated also the competence of Fortica variegata from the United States as intermediate host of Telaxia callipeda highworm. So the next prediction is that also UK, United States will have cases of highworm. And this is important not only for dogs and cats, but mainly for humans. We have cases of human cases in Europe of highworm infection, and also we have cases in China. In some areas of China, we have many cases, up to 1,000 cases in the last 5 years. So that's quite interesting to know. Probably the hypothesis is the hypothesis for the introduction of Telaxia callipeda. Probably Telaxia callipeda was imported from Asia. We found just an haplotype 1. I missed all the part about the genetic population studies that we have carried out, and from this part from Asia. It spread through Europe in close association with Fortica variegata vector. So it's really an emergent parasite. That's a very nice picture. I like. That's my desktop as well. And you can see has this small fly with the proboscis is feeding of lacrimal secretion. Another thing that is really important and unique in medical veterinary entomology. Only males of these flies are feed on lacrimal secretion. Females, they feed on fruits. That's really unusual. Is it really an emerging parasite? In my opinion, yes. Because it is apparent in the conjunctiva amongst the anatomical site most frequently inspected by veterinarians, so you cannot miss it, or you cannot misdiagnose it. It's a large parasite, and we have occurrence in other animal species, including humans. That means that we have many. We have quite many cases for sure, but it has a not strict. It has not a strict host affiliation. Since Thalassia callipeda is named high worm, and also this is an high worm, no, but it's not in conjunctiva, so it cannot be a Thalassia callipeda. In your opinion, what could be that parasite, this nematode, in the high worm? That? No, it's too small. No, it's not oncocerca, because the oncocerca do not move like that. They are dwelling in the skin, and they are a little bit more polite and calm. It's an Angiostronginus vasorum, but they just start surfing in internet or in PubMed. They put high worms and they sent samples, and that was the first step. That was the reason why we received by Nermin Saku, an ophthalmologist from Turkey, the first case of Onchocerca lupi. I didn't know what Onchocerca lupi was. I absolutely didn't know what it was, because nobody worked on that. We had few reports, just a description in Caucasian Wolf in 1967. But the reason why this parasite, as well as Cercopitifilaria, are unknown, is because the Macrophilaria are not in blood, circulating in the blood, but Macrophilaria are dwelling in the skin. So if you know how to diagnose this parasite, you can diagnose it, otherwise not. So by the, just to remind you that within the order Spirurida we have 10 superfamilies, and the Filariidea is the superfamily of Onchocercidae. And Filaria evolved highly specialized features, mostly with the hematophagus arthropods, and almost all species of the Onchocerca genus are restricted to ongulates, with some exception, Onchocerca molvus, for example, but also Onchocerca lupi. In that occasion, when we examined these parasites, we had the opportunity to report the first evidence of human zoonotic infection by Onchocerca lupi. These are Microfilaria Onchocerca. You cannot misidentify them. Are very, very short. Are the shortest Microfilaria. Are 90 microns, and also the shape is very typical. It's not easy. At the beginning, it was really difficult to know and to start identifying them. And how do you collect? How do you diagnose them? You just do a skin snip. When the owner comes, usually I say, there is nothing. I will not do anything to your dog, just a skin snip. Translated, you could say biopsy. But it's very superficial. You need to take this small piece of skin, put in physiological saline in an epidote, and look for wait for 10, 12 hours, and then examine the sediment. This is very fast procedure, and then you can find the Onchocerca. Microfilaria. These are the Onchocerca microfilaria. So there were some cases of clinical cases of this parasite. A case in Portugal, in Germany, but was imported. Also in the United States, we had 2 cases or 2 papers describing 4 cases of Onchocerca lupi in dogs and 2 in cats. And when you diagnose Onchocerca lupi from nodules in the clinically apparent apparent infestation, you have to identify the parasite by the presence of prominent annular ridges, which are those, no? And interrupted by two striae. That's typical of Onchocerca, or all Onchocercidae, and this feature is typical for Onchocerca lupi. This is an uterus with microfilaria of Onchocerca lupi. The clinical presentation of acute clinical presentation in Onchocerca is characterized by conjunctivitis, lacrimation, photophobia, and periorbital swelling. And you can see that the only way for treating this parasite until now, the clinical forms of these parasites is by surgical removal of these nematodes. The chronic cases may vary in inflammation. We may have varying degrees of inflammation, and may be associated with nodule-embedded parasites in the eyelids orbital fascia, or, and this is really important because we have to understand whether the clinical cases are representative for the occurrence of a parasite in a given population. We have also Onchocerca lupi in the retrobulbar of these animals, of dogs. We found it, this was in Portugal. So, for example, by CT, we can identify Onchocerca lupi infected asymptomatic animals, or also by ultrasound. But the most important way for having a picture of the distribution of this parasite is the examination of the sediment of skin slip. And when we went in this place, work in this place where the clinical cases were reported, such as in Greece and Portugal, we found up to 8.4% of animals infected by Onchocerca lupi by the looking at the sediment of skin slip and then looking at the microfilaria. So since that time when we reported for the first time the parasite in Turkey, we have many other reports in humans of Onchocerca lupi. For example, we had then other cases in Turkey and Tunisia. We had other cases again in Turkey, in Iran, where I'm currently working with some teams for also at the vector of Onchocerca lupi, but also in United States, where many cases were just identified as Onchocerca species, were redescribed, and we found that many of them were Onchocerca lupi. And we had also some new cases, first reported in cervical central channel in humans by Mark Eberhard and other colleagues. And nicely enough, we also saw that the human cases overlapped those of new cases in dogs. As well as the treatment of canine cocercosis is still empirical. Here they treated them with adulticides, with avermectins, also with doxycyclines for Wolbachia parasites, but Gavin Kennard, who is a colleague, an ophthalmologist in the United States, just said that I define successfully treated as patients who go 6 months without symptoms and without medication, which is not the case if one considers that microfilaria may remain in the skin of animals, and then potentially may be of zoonotic importance if the factor that is still unknown is present. But working at this parasite, we knew and we met other parasites. Sorry. New and other parasites, unexpected parasites. The life of scientists and researchers is quite strange. And we know that the most important aspect of in our life is the serendipity, the accident of discovering something good or useful without looking for it, while looking for something else. That's really important, and we never have to expect any result when we observe or when we study something, or we are testing an hypothesis, which methodologically is our first approach, and we should do like that. Cercopitifilaria is a genus of phileroids that I never heard about. Never. And was described as subgenus of the Petalonema and elevated to generic rank by Odile Ben. 28 species infest animals. Adult worms and microfilaria are in subcutaneous tissues, but most importantly, and this is the differential character, is that with other phileroids, is that these filaria are transmitted by the hard ticks. In a hot summer in Sicily in 2010, we tried to survive the warm and the hot of Sicily. We were with Felipe, Emanuele Brianti, and another colleague. We were testing an hypothesis that another phileroids that you should know, Acanthochelonema reconditum, could have been transmitted by ticks, by Ripicephalus sanguineus tick, which is the most important tick species in southern Mediterranean area, the kennel tick or the brown dog tick. And therefore, we infected these microfilaremic animals, Margherita and Tobia, with macrofilaremic animals with ticks. And strangely enough, we found that some ticks were positive for larvae, and other ticks were, the ticks from the second dog were negative. So what did it mean? That Acanthochelonema reconditum developed in ticks fed on Margherita and did not in ticks fed on Tobia, or what? It meant that we were dealing with a new parasite, completely new and unexpected parasite, Cercopitifilaria sp1, because species 1, because we didn't, morphologically, we didn't describe the habits of this parasite, so we could not name the parasite. That's a typical parasite, completely different from Onchocerca nipi, and you can do the diagnosis of this parasite, by skin snip, as mentioned before. Therefore, we started working on the biological life cycle of this quite strange, unusual parasite. And we infected ticks on the same animals, and we detected by dissection and molecular biology the larvae in ticks, and we described the different stages of Cercopitifilaria sp1 in Ripicephalus sanguineus. After 50 days, 50 days, we had the third stage infective larvae, up to 900 third stage larvae in a single tick. So that's the morphology of this tick species. And so Ripicephalus sanguineus is an intermediate host of a canine neglected filaria species with dermal microfilaria. And we nicely found that there was a relationship amongst the occurrence in anatomical sites of microfilaria and the attachment sites of Ripicephalus sanguineus. So we concluded that could have been a close coevolution of this filaria with these vectors. But if this vector is vectored by such a common tick species, we should expect a high prevalence of Cercopitiphilaria. Indeed, the Ripicephalus sanguineus is present, is worldwide, diffuse, distributed, and even if in dogs, he may also feed on other animal species. And we found that by microscopy of skin and sediments or by PCR, about from 10 to 40% of animals infected by ticks are also infected by this parasite, with a prevalence up to 45% in dogs in Spain. This was the first comprehensive study, and it was made again by skin deep and by diagnosing the first stage larvae in the microfilariae in the skin sediment. Unfortunately, in 2012, Odile Bain passed away, and we redescribed the species as Cercopitiphilaria bene. This is the most important species of Cercopitiphilaria dogs, but looking at that parasite, we found something different. Something that was really, again, a new microfilaria, completely different from the first, which was in length, even if the length of a microfilaria is not the only character, as we know, for the differentiation. Also the shape, midali, lateral hali, it was in length 100 microns more length than Cercopitiphilaria bene, and this is a Cercopitiphilaria bene. This is Cercopitiphilaria sp2. It means that we didn't describe it as yet because we didn't find the adults, and when we are looking for that, in the foxes is present. It's also present this parasite. In Portugal, we have a high prevalence of this parasite, but we need the adults for the description. So this is Cercopitiphilaria 2 with the very typical area, ali, lateral ali, rounded head, and this is some morphological characters. And again, there is a third Cercopitiphilaria grassi, which is very, very long and completely different from the first two. So we found a very nice species diversity of dermal microfilaria in the genus Cercopitiphilaria in dogs in the Mediterranean area, an amazing biodiversity of these parasites. You can see here Cercopitiphilaria bene, Cercopitiphilaria sp2, and Cercopitiphilaria grassi, and for sure Onchocerca lupi, which is the only zoonotic one. So, and at my eyes, it was open a new world for parasites, new genus, new parasites, new research, new everything, was completely unexpected. And this is very nice because we gain a lot of information and we are still working on that. Is this filaria pathogenic? We know that this Cercopitiphilaria may cause diffuse erythematous and papular dermatitis, which is important for veterinarians also for the diagnosis of some atopic allergies, dermatitis, which is quite interesting hypothesis to be tested. We found it associated with polyarthritis in a dog, with this Cercopitiphilaria in the synovial liquid in the junction of a dog. And this was published this week or last week. Also in Florida, they found an animal infected by this Cercopitiphilaria bene and they described very well. They were dermatologists that described very well the infection and the clinical features. So that's one of my last slide. The importance of vector-borne helminths, in my opinion. We need to know basic knowledge on vector. We need basic knowledge on the vector, pathogen, and dose distribution. That's really important, and we need also to have vector surveillance, mainly for zoonotic parasites like Onchocerca lupi. We are working since 2010 on the vector of Onchocerca lupi with some field studies to collect and to find the vectors of Onchocerca lupi, which is really, really difficult in the field, because unfortunately these parasites live and perpetuate not in nice place like this town, but in poor, hard place areas, very poor. So we have to work in this area. New generation parasitologists need scientific knowledge on morphology, biology, and epidemiology, in my opinion, before destroying the parasite in the molecular biology. It means that it's really important. Molecular biology there are tools in molecular biology that are fundamental for all studies and for improving our knowledge in different fields. But we need morphology. We need to know morphology, biology, and epidemiology for understanding. Also for studying a parasite, and excessive specialization without background does not allow that holistic view in studying parasitology and parasitic disease. Avoid general statements and concepts. That we were here in June 2011 with Odile. We have an Odile Bay Memorial Prize. You should be very proud as French and as people living or working in France, because you have very, very good, you have very good parasitologists, and Odile was the epitome of the good person, the good scientist, the good parasitologist. And this was in Xanthi, just in front of our hotel. She liked very much bird watching, and so she was looking at that bird. And I would like to leave you with this sentence. Although nature commences with the reasons and ends in experience, it is necessary for us to do the opposite. That is, to commence as with experience, and from these to proceed to investigate the reasons why. Thank you very much to Marie again. And this is my current team at the University of Bari. I would like also to thank them, because behind me there are many other, mostly young people, brilliant people that are working with me. Thank you very much for your attention.
Merci beaucoup, Domenico. Donc ta conférence était magnifiquement illustrée. On a vu de très belles images. Est-ce que ça suscite des questions?
To take Onchocerca as an example, does Onchocerca go from the dog to human and human to dog? Do Onchocerca from a dog can infect human?
Yes.
Yes. Zoonotic. But because you treat, seem that there are different species. You treat that.
Yeah, there are, the Onchocerca lupi is zoonotic for sure, but there are other species which may be zoonotic. For example, Onchocerca duetini japonica, which is a species which causes onchocercosis in Japan, and there are other species of roe deers which may be zoonotic. But for Onchocerca lupi, we know that it's also zoonotic. We have evidence not only morphological, but for sure also. Yeah.
And how many cases you have in humans?
In humans since 2011, we have clinical cases, 15 cases. But clinical cases, there are others that have not been, that could be asymptomatic as in dogs.
And the vector should be a drosophila, or something like that?
No, it should be a biting vector. Black flies, I don't know. We try to collect, I'm talking with the entomologists, the simulits and black flies, but you know, the biology of black flies, which are the vectors of many other species of Onchocerca, with the curicoids as well, and some also mosquitoes, but black flies are the vectors for Onchocerca, the main vector of Onchocerca. It's very difficult to rear. I think that there are two places, one in the United States and one in UK, where there is some breeding of these flies. And it's also difficult, I don't know if you have experience in the field, to collect them, because it depends on the biology, on the swarming of males and females, so it's very complex, it's really complex.
And do you try with Tabanidae?
No.
Just at
Yeah, no, but it's something of really important, tabanids, because they've been found some species by Rebecca Traub that may transmit acanthocheronema lyoke something in northern China, in northern India. And that could be an hypothesis. That could be another hypothesis. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. When I met Odilba when I was younger, I understood that there were filaria for ticks, and is it the host of
Cercopidifilaria? Yes.
It's an accident in dog.
No, because there are many species of Cercopidifilaria ticks. For example, we found by chance also, but we were working with the Felipe D'Antastores in the field for Ixodes ricinus, the seasonality of Ixodes ricinus. We found, yesterday night we were talking at the dinner, we found in some Ixodes ricinus an entomopathogenic wasp, Ixodiphagus ukeri, which deposits the eggs and the larvae in the body of ticks. And while dissecting these ticks, we also found another species of Cercopidifilaria, which is typical for roe deers, which is Cercopidifilaria rugosicauda, which is completely different for roe deers that were in the same enclosure where we were collecting Ixodes ricinus for another project. So, to answer your question, there are many species of Cercopidifilaria, many animals, many species of animals, mostly in ruminants, and these three species are typical of dogs. And since we work on dogs, we are more used to work on dogs. So find this kind of parasites, which are strange. For example, we are talking with the company, with a scientist, but also with a representative for companies. Companies sometimes have some problems, dermatologists have some problems like some dermatitis that are unknown and that are undiagnosed. That could be an hypothesis, but something of interesting for you to change also the way of doing research or for positioning some products. So science sometimes is really important, research is really important to the practitioners and to the companies, to the real world, because sometimes we speak about real world and the real world and research. I feel more like research, but I need to keep the real world for funding and something that no? Other questions?
To go back to the arthritis you find in the dogs. The arthritis, I don't know, say
Arthritis.
in the dog. I mean, this is an autoimmune disease, right?
No, we found in that arthritis, in the synovial liquid, we found many cercopitidae bene. And since we excluded by the differential diagnosis other causative agents, we put in relationship the occurrence of these cercopitidae with this.
You don't have antibodies?
No.
Bon. Plus de questions? Merci encore.
Merci.